We gotta figure out, like, is this gonna be a bonus episode on your end or my end? Because I feel like you were the one who brought it up first.
Look, I did this back in April. We don't need to do. I already April fooled myself. We don't need to do this again. The joke, a good joke. You don't have to do more than once.
Alright. So I guess I'll do this as a bonus episode on my end.
Well, I mean, I got all these notes together, so I mean, I got a whole intro sequence ready to go. I mean, are you taking in turns and just pretend like I do an intro and then you do an intro and
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll do the intro. Like let's do one off the cuff because I didn't really write any show notes for this in my usual structure. So we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, from the top and go.
Howdy y'all and welcome to the Anime Field Guide. My name is Dave and this is my podcast where I discuss anime and related topics and the fine folks who make it all possible. Today's episode is a little bit of a happy accident. We're going to talk about Prétear. It is a 13-episode magical girl series animated by HAL Filmmaker Studio. It was originally a manga written by Junichi Sato of Sailor Moon and other fame and illustrated by Kaori Naruse. This anime was produced under the directorship, however, of Kyoko Sakayama. With Junichi Sato supervising, he's got some credits as the chief director. Prétear was released in the spring 2001 broadcast season. And I have a very special guest joining me today. And before we get there, I want to get the plugs and everything out of the way for the show. So welcome to any first-time listeners. Thank you to everyone who is returning as well. Whether you found the show for the first time or are coming back, I'm glad to have you. If you haven't already, give us a follow, nice little 5-star review, all the nice things to support the show. But more importantly than all of that, thank you for making the Anime Field Guide part of your day with the gift of your time. And so speaking of a very gift of giving a person who's given a gift of their time, I'd like to welcome a very special guest to the show, Mr. Nate from the Otaku Nate Show. How you doing today?
What is up, anime fans? Otaku Nate here with another installment of the Otaku Nate Show. Wait a minute. This isn't my show. I thought I was going on your show to talk Prétear.
Well, you are now. I thought I was going on your show to talk Prétear.
And that's pretty much how this episode came about. I said, hey, why don't we do an episode where we talk Prétear together? Because, he did an episode on Princess Tutu, and you may as well talk about some of the other works of Junichi Sato, who, the more I think about it, has become one of my absolute favorite directors. Like, he's up there for me with the likes of Satoshi Kon, Osamu Dezaki, Takahiro Omori. Probably Sunao Katabuchi is the other one I think of, because anime fans, then as now, don't really think about who directs their works, and that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, you've got Miyazaki and a few others, but then those are like the very tip-top favorites. And what I'll see is like other fans will go, like they just see the studio, and that's about where it stops with them. So you say something like HAL Filmmaker, they'll go, what's that? Is that a MAPPA? But yeah, that's kind of what part of this show and what your show is also about. Both of us are trying to bring the spotlight more on these guys and their creators and their staff that support them. And so yeah, that's part of the mission. And an episode like this on Prétear, it was something that we were both interested in and talked about. And I look at it as part of you helping me further my education, not just in magical girls, because I will freely admit that is kind of like a blind spot in my fandom. And I'm getting better about mecha, but magical girls I'm still very woefully far behind. So the more Junichi Sato that I can get in my life, the more I can expand outwards and also spread the good word of his shows, including Prétear.
I have a whole rant prepared for later about magical girl anime and their perception in the West, but the short of it is that I don't blame people for not knowing their stuff about magical girls, because whereas mecha has started to have its moment over the past decade and change, I feel that magical girls outside of Sailor Moon and Madoka Magica never really got their chance to take root here in the States, mostly due to several mishandlings. You think us mecha fans had it rough? try being a magical girl fan.
The ones that tend to get popular are either the heavy nostalgia ones or, Madoka's like the whole dark with the twist. And, the ones that the true audience for the series, actually, young girls, which typically is the traditional demographic for Magical Girls series. The anime fans, well, I would say the anime businesses over here in the West are not exactly targeting that demographic all too much. They pretty much just let Disney princesses and others pretty much have that space. And there's not like a streaming service that is really leading the charge in any capacity. They're still being hosted, but you don't know about them unless you're already in the know.
Yeah, I really do think that somebody needs to start presenting panels all about magical girls, their history, and if you want to get into the genre proper outside of Sailor Moon and Madoka Magica, where do you begin? And as I'm going to rant about earlier regarding the edgy magical girls, it's not as if Madoka Magica reinvented the wheel or anything.
Or even invented the wheel in the first place. Far from it.
Oh yeah, it's a culmination of several decades of magical girl tropes, but we will discuss that when we discuss Prétear properly. Also, coincidentally, the writer for Prétear also wrote a little bit of an anime that I just reviewed for the most recent episode of my podcast, as of this recording anyway. He wrote Hell Girl.
Yeah, really interesting list of credits, considering that was literally your episode you just posted just a little while ago. So it'll be fun to talk about that and some of the other things that they worked on. So real quick, folks, as we are starting on this episode, naturally this is a little bit of a spur of the moment, so there's not going to be like a traditional, like there's no community spotlight, there are no listener comments, or for this one, just didn't have time to really do it. And I'm also this episode is going to be a nice little surprise. But we still have a couple of things to talk about, or there's at least one thing that we can plug that I think would be of interest to the community. Nate, you said you have and I actually just filled out my form as well, but there is a very cool project in the works called Icons of Anime, being helmed by Tim Eldred. It's a documentary project. Nate, you said you have a couple of words to say about this, and then I'll post it in the show's description. By the time this episode goes live, you'll still have probably about 2 weeks to get your submissions in. So you want to have anything else to say about that, Nate?
Yes, I will. Icons of Anime is a documentary that is being directed by longtime fan, historian, animator, comic artist, and filmmaker Tim Eldred, and it's basically going to be a history of the various anime from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s that helped anime take root here in America and helped to grow the fandom. The likes of Astro Boy, Speed Racer, Gotcha Man, Gundam, Macross, Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and Sailor Moon, along with many, many others. You can fill out the survey to give him an idea of what anime you'd like to be covered, who you'd like to see interviewed, and if this gets off the ground, we'll likely be seeing interviews with some people on the Japanese side of the industry who helped make the shows and have helped sort of preserve their legacies over the years. I have had nothing but utter respect for that first generation of anime fans. Just listening to their stories and seeing the videos of anime cons from the late 80s and early 90s, to being held in seedy hotel bars and ballrooms, to taking up entire convention spaces, man, this fandom's come a long way. I agree that it has grown for the better, even though that growth has brought along some problems with it that I don't want to talk about. I do think, though, that having more eyeballs on anime is always good for the medium, and it's especially great for me because I am now seeing people who are younger than I am going back and watching the classics, which, when I was getting into the fandom, if you dared to watch any anime that was older than 1988, you were considered the hardest of hardcore fans. But nowadays, we look at those people and they're like, man, those people are awesome.
Very well said. So again, the Icons of Anime document will be in the episode description. Please fill it out if you are able and interested, and look forward to the project. It looks really cool. Tim Eldred has done numerous other projects as well, other documentaries. So it's a good time to, if you aren't familiar with his work, this will be a great time to meet him and check him out and check out his other works. So thank you very much for sharing.
Also, just a reminder that the website is iconsofanimedoc.com. That is iconsofanimedoc.com.
All right, with that, do you want to talk about anything else before we jump in? What we've been watching, or...
I've been watching quite a few things from the new season lately. And I'm going to say this right now. 2026 is going to go down as one of those magical years for anime like 1978, 1986, 1995, 2004, and 2015 as not just a good year for anime, but a great year for anime. I've watched the new Ghost in the Shell by Science Saru, and I am absolutely enjoying it. There have been a lot of people, some who don't really know Ghost in the Shell outside of Oshi's original 95 series, that are a bit ignorant about the original manga by Masamune Shiro. I always say that with Ghost in the Shell, you have to take every entry as its own thing, and you shouldn't go comparing one entry to another, and I'm having a blast with the new entry. I think that the people at Science Saru really understood what made the manga for Ghost in the Shell so appealing. In the latest episode, they're adapting the part of the story that was pretty much the 95 film. It's great watching and comparing it, the more realistic and existential tones of 95's Oshi film versus the more cartoonish aesthetic of the 2026 anime. I like the English dub as well. It's an all-new cast, and nobody from the previous dubs have reprised the roles, but I think the actors all do a good job. The only actor I miss from the OG cast is Richard Epcar as Bato.
He's been in the role for so long, and he's even voiced young Bato. So I am missing him, and I do miss a little bit of Crispin Freeman's Togusa, but I think for this version of Togusa, I would say like he would have needed. I am liking the younger voice because he really was the rookie in this one, and everything you've just said about Ghost in the Shell is pretty much exactly what I would have said as well. I've done a couple of episodes on it now. You know, y'all for those regular listeners, I'd be preaching to the choir. Nate just absolutely crushed it. So, but I have loved watching both sides of the reactions to Ghost in the Shell. Both the confusion and those who are like big fans in the manga, like myself. I am a huge fan of the original manga, and I'm glad to see it this iteration. I'm absolutely loving it. It's great.
I also watched the first episode of Goodbye Lara. I am very interested in seeing where this one goes, because I love the very simplistic, sort of cartoony art style to it. Also, I love the fact that they said, screw it, we're doing cell animation for the opening. There are behind-the-scenes videos of them making the opening to Goodbye Lara, where you see the animators doing traditional cell paintings, and it's so good to see people doing that in 2026. I still haven't watched the newest episode, but I'm gonna catch up. I'm very excited to see where this is going, and also watched the first episode of Jadugar. That is very likely going to be the critical darling of 2026. This season, we are getting 3 visually distinct anime with Goodbye Lara, Jadugar, and Science Saru's Ghost in the Shell. What an amazing year this has been for anime in terms of quality.
I am a huge fan of Jadugar. I'm a little bit further than you. They just, as far as this recording, they just released episode 4. And so, yeah, you're about to go on a journey, even with just that. And just today, I watched Goodbye Lara, the first 2 episodes, and I'm as soon as this is over, I'm gonna go. Recording is over. I'm gonna go watch those behind the scenes because I really wanted to like keep myself, I guess, pure until I saw the show for myself, and then go check out all the behind the scenes stuff. I cannot wait. Cinema Citrus is a really neat studio. And for something like this, I also am a huge fan of anime original projects. So Goodbye Lara is right up my alley. I love the little picture. I would almost say like a picture book aesthetic is kind of what they're going for. I love the underseas and then especially like all the underwater. And now that she's above land, it's not quite the same picture book. It's more like what you would see like a regular show for like art direction and things, but it still keeps those moments. So it's really visually distinctive. Jadugar is, again, just a series all of its own. I've seen a lot of comparisons. What was it? Ranking of Kings. Folks have been making comparisons to Ranking of Kings in the art style, which, yeah, it's immediately apparent. But yeah, Jadugar is going to go places. Love it. I think, what else? The other one that I'm watching, of course, is Daemons of the Shadow Realm. Continues to be pretty good. I can definitely tell that they are doing their own pacing with it. It's not as immediately like off to the races as, because obviously this is Hiromu Arakawa's work, a lot of comparisons and talks to Full Metal Alchemist. You have some folks who've only seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood going, why is this pace so slow? It's like, it's not slow pacing, but it is different. It's playing its cards a little bit more close to the chest, but then it's also taken about 10 episodes to really, really get going. There's also Smoking Behind the Supermarket, but that was more the mini episodes. So I'm waiting for essentially that episode 6 where they're combining the miniature episodes into full ones. So I'm still waiting for the new stuff.
I'm anxiously awaiting the dub for that to be available stateside, other than the fact that it was dubbed by Ocean Studios. Canadian anime dubs, my beloved. I understand that not every anime dub that was done by the Ocean Group was solid gold, but when Ocean Studios dubs hit, they were often excellent. I just recently watched Fatal Fury, the movie. They did a phenomenal job with that English dub. And also the villain of that movie is played by Ed from Ed, Nettie. Matt Hill had range.
Oh, I remember the 2 other shows that I have up. For me, this is like a show of like the ladies are just killing it this season. Young ladies don't play fighting games. Classic thing, rich girls' school, a lot of strict rules. But then, the jewel of the school is secretly into Street Fighter 6. And they showed like actual Street Fighter 6 gameplay. And so it's been an interesting watch of almost something similar as what I remember from like High Score Girl, where they were able to show like actual arcade gameplay. So a lot of the story moments, instead of just doing a wall of text and going, oh, they're doing this, this, and this, you're seeing how good they are in the moment, and then a couple of cutaways. And it's not quite as in your face as like, say, Rock is a Lady's Modesty. But if you like that show, I think you'll really enjoy Young Ladies Don't Play Fighting Games. It has a rock and metal intro as well, super in your face. And then also, speaking of a metal intro, Kaiju Girl Caramelis is just very pretty. Think of like Turning Red, except it's a kaiju.
Do they talk about 9/11?
Not yet. No, this is very much Japan, so think more like Godzilla.
As far as what
it could happen.
Lastly, for what I'm watching for my show, unfortunately, things are gonna be rough sledding out in Ontario here. I don't live in Ontario. Unfortunately, though, I got some rough waters ahead. Because I'm going to review Megazone 2-3 Part 3. I'm not looking forward to that one. And for episode 69, I want to do something big and also controversial, which means that I'm going to be reviewing Seikon no Quasar.
Good luck. Big bouncing series.
There's a reason why I wanted to review this. There are people out there who like Seikon no Quasar because it's got a lot of fan service and, they say that they like it to quote-unquote own the libs. But then there are people like my co-host Kat, who says that they enjoy it, they unironically enjoy it. And so that got me thinking, is there something here in Seikon no Quasar that I am missing? Because I don't just want to dismiss it and bash it as this exploitative fan service show. Maybe there is something here that is worth defending, or something salvageable about it. I don't want this to be another Pride of Orange review for me where I just bash a show relentlessly and say, it sucks. I want to look at this through a clear lens.
God, I don't even remember the last time I tried Seikon no Quasar. It was definitely high school, early college, because, you see the front cover. I did not make it past episode 1, but I have seen other shows, like Freezing, Shuffle, some other like visual novel / eroge that were adapted into anime once upon a time. But again, thanks to your show, I also gave a shot, found one of my new favorites, Asobi ni Ikuyo. There's so much to defend and, well, not just defend, but so much to enjoy about that series.
My feelings about fan service anime is that I don't care whether or not a series has gratuitous TNA or anything. What I want to know above everything else is the show good? Because I am willing to ignore a couple of bouncing breasts or skimpy outfits or even sexually exploitative or just downright uncomfortable moments if the show is good. But the key word there is it has to be good.
I don't know how well to segue from that into a discussion on Prétear, because I don't think it's anywhere near that level of a show.
Well, there is some fan service in Prétear, but it's not like it's in your face.
It's a lot of tasteful silhouettes.
And that same shower scene shot every episode or so. But I think we've talked enough about what's going on. Let's get into what we were actually here to talk about, and that is Junichi Sato's underrated magical girl series, Prétear.
All right, so get us started like always. I'm going to yap for a bit, do the summary and do the studio brief, and then talk a little bit about series availability. And then if you have anything else to add, just interrupt me, and then we'll go into our experience with the series.
Okay.
So once upon a time, our high school student hero, Himeno Awayuki, is trying to adjust to her new life as her widowed father has remarried the wealthy widow Natsue, who has 2 daughters, Mawata and Mayune. Himeno's father is a former novelist, but he hasn't written anything since his first wife passed away, so Himeno is shocked by their sudden turn of fortune from poverty to one of the wealthiest families in Japan, and so naturally she's struggling to fit in with her new stepsisters and the life of luxury. As for her sisters, Mawata is cold and aloof, while Mayune actively engages in petty bullying and pranks, although most of the time her own traps hilariously backfire.
Wile E. Coyote style.
Very Wile E. Coyote style. It is, she orders all of her traps from Acme for sure. So one day, while taking a shortcut to school, Himeno runs into the dark and handsome Hayate and immediately gets into an argument with him. Himeno throws a punch while Hayate blocks it, and a mysterious light appears on contact, signifying that Himeno is the chosen Prétear, a magical princess who protects the world alongside her 7 knights, protecting a magical the life force known as Life, so she's protected by her 7 Life Knights. Himeno soon meets her other knights who inform her that the world is in danger from the red snow, a phenomenon caused by the Princess of Disaster, and if left unchecked, the red snow will spawn demon larvae that will then drain the world of Life and therefore all of life itself, which is a pretty bad deal. This is naturally a lot to just suddenly throw at a teenage girl, and Himeno believes this to be just another elaborate prank. However, when a larva attacks the town, Himeno agrees to help and merges with Hayate to become the Wind Prétear. As the attacks from the demon larva escalate, Himeno must now balance her new life and her new powers and the relationships of 7 pretty boys in order to save her family and the world.
I should also add to this that the full title of Prétear is Shin Shirayuki Hime Densetsu Prétear, or in English, Prétear, the New Legend of Snow White, or, as I have nicknamed this show lovingly, Snow White and the 7 Bishonen.
Which is a very fitting title for this series, as we'll certainly get into. Now, Prétear the anime, of course, I mentioned it at the top of the episode. This begins as a manga series, so this was written by Junichi Sato and illustrated by Kaori Naruse, so I could get into Junichi Sato's credits as we will later in the episode, so I'll highlight Naruse-san for a second. Other than Prétear, she's mainly the illustrator of the manga for Lunar 2, Eternal Blue, which had 2 volumes, but other than that, she's really an illustrator for various romance novels. And so for the anime version, it's not so much like an adaptation of the manga as it is more like a loose adaptation. So think of it almost like a separate interpretation. So Junichi Sato is like a supervisor of the anime, although he's credited as the chief director. But the series director on this one is Kyoko Sayama. She's got a lot of storyboard and episode director credits going into this, and as well as later. So she later joined as like on Princess Tutu, Kaleido Star, Aria the animation, or like Aria the Natural, Nana, Saber Marionette J. But notably, I suppose, she is the director of Vampire Knight and Vampire Knight Guilty.
Like, was Vampire Knight the last major shoujo series that broke into the mainstream?
It was pretty big. I remember it being a pretty big Tokyo Pop thing. Like, it was everywhere for a while.
Oh, well, no, it was Viz, not Tokyo Pop.
Oh, Viz. I'm sorry. Yeah, Viz Medium.
Yeah, because I remember, like, Vampire Knight was the thing in 2008, 2009, and, well, ever since the streaming era, shoujo has kind of faded into the background, but it has made a big comeback in 2026.
So other than Vampire Knight, Kyoko Sayama has also been the director of Brave 10, so that was in 2012, Amanchu Advance, which is a 2018 scuba diving anime, also chief director being Junichi Sato. She's also the director of To Your Eternity, the second season in 2022, and she's listed as the chief director of To Your Eternity Season 3. And upcoming, she is attached as the director of The Seven Knights of the Marioneer Kingdom.
So you talked about the series director. Can I talk about the man himself, Junichi Sato?
Yeah, go ahead and run through Junichi Sato.
I stated at the very beginning that I feel that Junichi Sato is one of anime's most overlooked directors. And just go to his Wikipedia page and then go through his filmography where he was a series director. This guy has helmed not just some good stuff, but some great stuff. Many people from my generation who were around during the home video boom of the late 80s will likely remember a TV series that aired on Nickelodeon or some similar network involving cute animals in a town called Mapletown Stories. That was his big debut. He directed a couple of other things like Akuma-kun and Goldfish Warning, but his big breakthrough was when he directed the inaugural series of Sailor Moon and the first 13 episodes of Sailor Moon R before he passed the baton over to Kunihiko Ikuhara, though he would still work on Sailor Moon as an episode director here and there. He would go on to serve as a director on things like the 1995 anime film Junkers Come Here, Magic Users Club, which is criminally underrated, even if the animation in the TV series of it isn't great. But he would serve as a director for the 2000 Sakura Wars anime. He would go on to direct Magical Do-Re-Mi, which is a fan favorite among Magical Girl fans. He would really get his flowers in 2002 when he directed Princess Tutu. He helmed the first season of Kaleido Star. He was more the chief director of New Wings, but I know New Wings was a separate director. And would also go on to direct parts of Sergeant Frog and the Aria series as well. He's done other things since, like Fee Brain, Puzzle of the Gods, Mayoi Neko Overrun, and Hugto Pretty Cure, but since then it seems like he's kind of stepped away from the business. I would like to see him come to a convention stateside.
Yeah, since about 2017 or so, he's been attached to like Twin Engine, the Twin Engine group. So he's jumped in here and there. So like you said, he was the director for Hugto Pretty Cure. He worked with JC Staff and directed Amanchu and then Amanchu Advance. He's worked attached to the Aria movies in 2021 and 22. So after JC Staff picked them up, I believe he also co-directed the 2020 film A Whisker Away. Most recent Magical Girl show I saw under his direction was 2022's Wacha Pre-Magi. In a similar vein, I guess, to Kaleido Stars, like magical entertainers, like a magical circus act. And then there was also the revival series of Akuma-kun. He was the director, or he has a credit on Akuma-kun for the web series on Netflix in 2023. But his run with Prétear, the beginnings of Aria, Kaleido Star, Princess Tutu, again, as we did in episode 4 of the Anime Field Guide, you can hear my run through of all of that. We're talking the studio of Prétear is HAL Filmmaker. Like Junichi Sato, this is founder and producer formerly of Toei. This is Katsunori Haruta. And this studio was founded in 1993, so their first projects include 1995's Macross 7, the movie. Their first television series was Saber Marionette J, the 1997 OVAs, and then the 98 TV anime. You also have, in 2000, they have a couple TV series, Boys B, Angel Sanctuary OVAs, Strange Dawn, which was also directed by Junichi Sato, when he joined Helm Filmmaker in 2000. So that was his first series that he directed at HAL. Then, of course, this show, Princess Tutu in 2002, Kaleido Star in 2003, the Sergeant Frog, Aria. So in addition to all of that, Junichi Sato remained as a representative director at HAL Filmmaker, and he stayed through their first merger with Umeda Company in 2009, which is owned by the TYO Corporation. So these two companies were merged. They were renamed to TYO Animations, and so Junichi Sato remained at this company until 2016. Then he moved over to Twin Engine, where he's done his other projects. But in 2017, TYO Animations was sold off to the Graphinica Company. This is a photography, CG, effects, and animation support studio based in Tokyo, and it has its roots from when Gonzo sold off its digital effects department in 2009. So a whole mess of mergers and acquisitions, but right now, everything about HAL Filmmaker has pretty much been filtered down and sold off and combined into Graphinica companies. I don't know how many. You can probably follow the trail of whoever still remains there, but I thought that was interesting to see the whole Gonzo side rear its head again.
HAL Filmmaker's final credit listed on Wikipedia is of one of my favorite little comedies of the 2010s. They directed Bigata HK, aka Yamada's First Time, which I absolutely adored and highly recommend.
So getting into Prétear, of course, series availability is it's pretty much only on streaming right now. Crunchyroll is your main option. It's got the Japanese and English dubs. Speaking of Gonzo, what I found is it's a little interesting quirk about the two tracks. The Japanese track includes these Gonzo plus Funimation stingers. So the Japanese track is actually around 15 seconds longer than the English track. It kind of confused me at first because when I was first watching Prétear, I was like, I don't remember Gonzo directly being involved. But it was actually their subsidiary, Digimation, at the time, was in charge of CGI and effects on Prétear. And at the time, Gonzo was a leader in the CG department. On the English dub side, this is an AD Vision dub. So the actual English was recorded in what was released in November of 2003. Then they had the other DVD sets through March 2004, which is pretty much the only print that we've had of the DVDs, at least. And I believe you actually have the art box recently signed by Lucy Christian herself.
That I do. I was very, very lucky to meet Lucy Christian at Collecticon in New Jersey a few weeks ago. It's a trading card convention, so naturally it attracts the scummiest of people, especially those people bringing suitcases worth of those plastic NFTs they call Funko Pops. But when I presented my Prétear box set to Lucy Christian, she gave that thing a huge bear hug. She was ecstatic to see that somebody brought her Prétear, and she told me straightforward she wished that more people knew about Prétear. And I, of course, reciprocated those sentiments, saying that as much as I love Princess Tutu, I think Prétear also deserves lots of love, because it is also a wonderful little show, and it's also got a lot of heart in it too. But we will talk about the English dub in due time. I also had her sign my Fullmetal Panic Invisible Victory Blu-ray box set, and I told her that I owe my entire anime fandom to that one series. Fullmetal Panic as a whole, not just Invisible Victory.
I assume that's what you meant, yes. Well, I've never been to a convention myself, but I'm going to go to my first one in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be going up to Chicago for Fan Expo. Not exactly an anime one.
Could I give you a little piece of advice with my many encounters of English dub voice actors? And also, this applies to the Japanese side as well. if you bring a voice actor or actress something that they are not well known for, they will be your friend for life.
I'm going through, before I leave, I'm going to go through my shelf and double check what I have and what I would like to get signed. Because everything that I have, it's not going anywhere. It's staying with me. So I may not bring the full case, or I may take the discs out, but I would like to be able to go like get a sign, or at the very least, again, my episode book, the episode notes, the anime field guide is essentially a death note. And so if I have someone, if I could have a voice actor, write their name in the special episode book, that might also get a couple of chuckles. But yeah, that'd be a kind of a fun deal. So with that being said, what would you say was your first experience with Prétear? Because this is one of those, like, you very much recommended this show to me. I have no prior experience with Prétear. So I want to hear, like, how did you first discover this series?
Back when podcasts were a new thing, all the way back in the distant year of 2006, I first heard about Prétear on an anime podcast. An anime podcast from Anime Boston. Yes, Anime Boston had their own podcast. It was basically them recording various voice acting panels from old Anime Boston conventions and putting them out on iTunes. And one of, like, the few episodes they had was one that featured Monica Rial. That's where I first heard about who Monica Rial was. And she mentioned Prétear as one of the shows that she was in, and that got a big pop out of it. Flash forward a few years later, I'm at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. There's a used game store not far from me, which has since closed down. I was just by it the other day. And I saw the box set of Prétear for sale for like $20. So I bought it and never watched it. I didn't get around to watching it until last year when I was between jobs and trying to find places to interview. And I had high expectations going into it because, okay, it's a Junichi Sato joint. I love Princess Tutu. I love Sailor Moon. I love Magic Users Club. I'm expecting good things out of this. It became one of my favorite anime discoveries of 2025. I highly recommended it to anyone that is willing to get into magical girl anime or the works of Junichi Sato, or for people that want to know why I love the 2000s as a decade for anime.
This is definitely hidden gem territory. I don't know really what expectations I had going in, because I have nothing but good things to say about Princess Tutu, so I was expecting something along those lines. Actually, if there's anything, I was expecting it to be a little bit more along the tragedy lines, because of course Snow White has its own fair share of tragedy. But my first impressions of this were like, yes, this is definitely his brand of comedy, very much like slapstick, very joyful series, despite what's essentially like a very tense premise, trying to prevent essentially the end of the world.
It doesn't get as dark as Princess Tutu, but there is no shortage of the feels in this one.
Funny enough, when I was watching the series, I was surprised that it was 13 episodes. I was expecting it to be a full 26. And when I finished the 13, I thought to myself, like, man, I really wish this was a 26. I could have done like way more. The only kind of air quote like issues I have with this show is some of it feels like a little bit too brief. It's kind of like we had to get this moment in there, but we only have 13 episodes to work with. So we got to, kind of move along in some instances. So some of the like bigger impacts were just a little bit rushed to me at the start, if I would say, to lead off. But I ended this show, I was like, this was a very delightful time. And I think it's very rewatchable. And unironically, like when I finished, we actually have, we own Vampire Knight. I did not buy it. My wife actually bought Vampire Knight a couple of years ago. She really likes the show. So when I told her that, hey, the director of Vampire Knight did this thing on Snow White, she's like, oh my gosh, we should try it out. So we have a couple shows in front of us, but I really do feel like a rewatch of Prétear is in my future, near future.
I do think that 13 episodes isn't enough, but it doesn't feel like, I felt like there could have been more to it, like a lot of modern anime that rush through things in 13 episodes. I think that 13 episodes was enough for the type of story that they're trying to go for. I just feel like there could have been a couple more episodes. Maybe not 26, but like maybe 5 more episodes.
Yep, agreed. I just wanted more. It was more like quibbles, because it's not so much like anything that was clunky or clumsy or just mishandled or fumbled, really. It's just more, I was thinking like, oh, they really could have explained this a little bit more or given me a little bit more to go on, like a character trait. But I wanted to start it off like, all right, so what is up with this world? What is this whole setting about? One thing I didn't really mention in the intro is there's an entire parallel world. This is ostensibly in the real world, but there's we actually begin in like this fantasy land called Lifemia.
I believe it's just simply known as the Land of Lifei.
Yeah, the Land of Lifei. I think it's like in the English dub. Like sometimes they'll call it like Lufemia or something like that. But yeah, the Land of Lifei, which is like the fantasy land that is the source of all life, or like it shares its life with the Earth. It was a little unclear.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, in our world, it takes place, I don't know what the name of the town is, but it is a fictional town that is a literal company town. As in, the entire town is owned by the Awayuki family.
And you know it because they named every single building after Awayuki. Every single business bears their name, so there is no doubt where the Awayuki bounds begin.
Yeah.
This is like stupid rich money.
I think one thing I can immediately praise Prétear for, this is 2001, and we're in the early days of Digipaint animation, and a lot of that stuff does not hold up well. I have an easier time watching anime from the 1970s than I do some Digipaint shows. I think this one holds up a little better because of the color palette they chose. Early Digipaint animation have 2 types of colors. Either drab and washed out colors a la Wolf's Rain or Kino's Journey or Witch Hunter Robin, or trying to have a vibrant color palette that feels tasteless a la Gundam Seed. Or, worst case scenario, Trouble Chocolate. This one uses a more pastel color palette, and it works.
Yeah, it works really well for what's ostensibly a fairy tale love story. It works perfectly great. Himeno and her shockingly pink hair, old Miss Tulip Head herself, which is a great nickname. I love that it just sends her off. Yeah, everything is very nice, flowery, very shoujo-y, which of course plays into the plot, very overly dramatic, and the comedy is loud and a lot of slapstick. Himeno is clumsy, but she's also really strong. So there are moments where you just see her crack her knuckles and like a table explodes. It's always like very funny.
There's a lot of really good physical comedy in this series. We already talked about Mayune trying to prank Himeno, and we'll talk about how great Mayune is in a little bit, and how those are very much inspired by Looney Tunes. Anime fans take for granted just how much influence the golden age of cartoons had on Japanese animators from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of those old Max Fleischer, Walt Disney, and Looney Tunes cartoons were huge hits among Japanese people.
It is very reflective in Prétear, not just from it's very, very much reflective in Prétear from its visual gag setup, the way the characters react. Of course, plenty of the over-the-top Japanese reaction faces. The timing in this one does feel, I think that is something else that like the timing feels very familiar to me, especially the early, like the first 4 episodes are almost pure comedy.
Oh, and also the backgrounds in Prétear are gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
Lovely watercolors painting. Like, you can say everything you want about the early Digipaint days of anime, but some of those Digipaint shows have very impressive looking backgrounds.
Yeah, and a big credit as well, the backgrounds and the art director. We got Kenichi Tajiri. He's got backgrounds in art from like Saint Seiya, also Akuma-kun, experience with Dr. Slump, Cutie Honey Flash, the entire Sailor Moon franchise pretty much. Of course, obviously also did backgrounds and art direction for Princess Tutu, Sergeant Frog, the Aria, ton of other credits beyond. But really, you have the art director from Sailor Moon, with all of those years of experience. So another point in why this feels very familiar and just very comfortable, very that comfortable pastel color palette. When you think Magical Girls series, you're thinking bright colors and, sparkles and flashes, and this is all here.
Speaking of the Magical Girl show elements, I want to get into the Magical Girl mechanics of the show. The way that Himeno's Magical Girl form works in this is that she transforms via preteing. What is preteing, you ask? Well, preteing is that it's a strange terminology.
I'm sorry. Oh, continue.
Preteing, yeah. Preteing, it's not even a word that they derived anything from, but the way preteing works is that she simply reaches her hand out to one of the 7 Bishonen in this show, she holds their hand, and she takes on whatever element they represent. Hajime is representative of water. Sasame, the white-haired guy, is representative of sound.
I've got them divided up into like the lads and the gents.
Yes. God, I could talk about the character designs. She takes on various different forms. As I mentioned in DMs, it's the Ultraman Ace method of transforming. If none of you have seen Ultraman Ace, the way that Ultra transformed is that Ultraman Ace takes on the form of 2 humans, 1 male and 1 female, and the way they transform into Ultraman Ace is that they leap up into the air, and they link hands in midair, and boom, they become Ultraman Ace, though they abandoned this transformation gimmick halfway through the show, much to everyone's disappointment.
And it works pretty much the same here. So she reaches out, the boy transforms into her clothes. So again, like you mentioned, you got the 7 knights, 4 of the older boys who are basically around Himeno's age or older, or at least they look around Himeno's age or older. Like you mentioned, Hayate is her first, so that's the wind element, Sasame sound. Handsome boy K, he represents light, and then Go is fire. And then an interesting point is there are the 3 younger ones, I would just call them the lads, and they are the reincarnations, child reincarnations of the previous knights who were killed in a battle 16 years ago. And so Manon represents ice, Hajime has water, and Shin, the baby of the group, can control plants, and all of a sudden controlling plants means you can also create an entire pocket dimension. Basically he basically creates the battle stage every time. So her 7 knights all represent their various elements, and so Himeno's clothes will change very slightly depending, her color scheme would naturally change depending. Also her weapons, so like the wind sword, sound doesn't really have a weapon, but like light I believe is an arrow, water whip, you get the idea. The enemies are basically what are called demon larvae, and they are these evil eggs with eyes. They basically look like evil snails almost when they're like egg forms.
I believe the proper term is they are ammonite fossils.
Ammonite fossils, yes. That then transform into ammonite tentacle monsters.
Yeah, they're ammonite fossils with that shell. My big criticism that I have for Prétear is that the fights in Prétear are, I don't want to say they're boring, but they're over way too quickly.
In fact, I remember there were some fights that I clocked because I couldn't believe it. I think the transformation scene lasted longer than the fight.
You know what? I would rather have a fight scene that is brief and may not be impressive, but allows for more time in the episodes to get into the character dynamics and how they all function, versus one that takes up half the episode.
Which is exactly what Prétear does.
Unlike other Magical Girl anime, this one focuses on the characters.
It really does. So, I
can't say that with a straight face.
I could feel the smile through it. I think you pretty much got it. But yeah, like the fights in this show are very brief, and the choreography, it has its moments, but I would say the fights in Prétear are basic. But it's really more about what's emotionally at stake rather than fretting over the power level of the knights. Although I will have to say another thing about the knights is these guys, they tell her, like, we can't really, once a demon larva hatches, there's really not much we can do about it. So we really need you to become the pretear, because otherwise we're all kind of screwed. And you really get the feel for it in that first fight. They're basically charging up all their attacks and all the grunts and the attack noises. And it looks like they're just farting on this thing. Like it's barely an attack that's landing on this stuff. I was like, really? You charge up for like 5 seconds and it's just like a fart of wind? Like you guys really need her. In the back half of the series, I think the animators were getting the hint. So the guys were able to fire slightly bigger laser beams than they were at the beginning of the show. They really does drive home that they really do need the pretear. What about the other quirk of when they combine?
So because Himeno is basically wearing whoever she is preting with as armor, whenever she gets damaged, she is not hurt, but the person she preted with is. So after one of her battles, when she takes damage, we see that Hajime is the one who's borne the brunt of it.
These are injuries. These guys are getting hurt. It's one of those like very much early setup of like, oh, this is an interesting thread. I wonder how they're going to pull this later on in the show.
They don't really, though.
It's enough to get the point across that these guys are getting hurt, but they're generally fine by like the next day.
Anime logic.
It's more when she's like with the two kids. She never preets with Shin, I believe, in the series. She never becomes the plant pretear. But Manon and Hajime are like maybe 10 years old or something like that. So like the ice and water guys, you can see like she's definitely aware of all the hits coming her way whenever she's wearing them as an armor. So it does enough. But again, it's not like it's going to be this serious tragedy. Like one of these guys is going to be on the verge of death after every single battle. It's not that kind of show.
No, absolutely not. I gotta mention the character designs for this are also great. I love the fashion that these guys are wearing, specifically on our 7 Bishonen nights.
I love that everybody gets day wear, and like it's not all the same 7 outfits. I like that they took the time to give them different day outfits. You know, Himeno is not always running around in her school uniform as well. Everybody has fits.
I love her casual outfit with that yellow and red, what looks like a cheongsam mixed with the blue skirt underneath. Oh, it looks so great. It's a delight to look at. I'm also a fan of Sasame's casual outfit as well. Everybody looks so distinct. I think, though, my favorite design in the whole show is actually Mawada, and it's because of her hair. Like, you can tell just what each character's personality is just by looking at their default character models.
This is clearly a large cast, easily over a dozen characters. So there are a lot of names being thrown around at the start. So it really helps that everybody is distinct and memorable.
Also, and I have to make this joke on behalf of my friend and co-host Dan the Man, he describes Kei as he looks like Mihoshi from Tenchi Muyo, except very, very androgynous.
When I was first watching this, because of course these guys are everyday boys, but then they also have like their fantasy night outfits, which really more like color coordinated robes. But they also are able to do this night business while holding down full-time day jobs. So there was one of those like, okay, do they live in the Life Kingdom or no, they live in the real world? Is like by the end of the show, like they're all pretty much just bumming around Himeno's mansion anyways. There's like, where do they even live? It was always like a question I found myself asking, which it's not an important to the show. It's just a detail I kept thinking about. I'm like, okay, they have like these full-time jobs and then they're also defending this fantasy realm. So I always was curious, like what is a day in the life of these guys about?
I think that's something they could have explored with just a few more episodes.
Yeah, that's really all I was really curious about as far as the length of the show. I thought like, well, okay, let's explore the reincarnation aspect a little bit. You know, these 3 kids, you know, what do they think about it all? You know, do these guys have a choice? Because at first I thought it was like an inherited deal. But yeah, so the 7 nights, 7 elements, they all protect and they find a guardian. So it's not like they know who the pretear is automatically. So like Himeno is just chosen by something in the fates. Also unclear, but again, she's the main character of the show. You know, not terribly important, but it would have been interesting to learn, you know, what exactly qualifies or who or what says is a pretear. You know, I'm just doing little quibbly stuff. Is there anything about the nights? Because I was thinking like how we were going to tackle the voice actor situation. So I figured like go through the family or like go through the nights. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, do you want to talk about the antagonist?
Well, let's let's save the Princess of Disaster for later.
Okay,
Because
I'll do that.
the way they reveal her, in my humble opinion, is brilliant.
It's really good. That was masterstroke. Well done.
It is one of the best reveals ever, and they do a good job of hiding it.
Yeah, I'll remind me before we get to her, and I'll say like the big spoiler blocker or for those, because I really would like to say, like, obviously if you're listening to this episode, yes, go watch the show before checking out the spoiler. But yeah, we'll be sure to put a spoiler blocker before talking about the big twisty details. So then you want to do voice actors for these guys then?
Oh yes.
All right, we'll start with we'll start with Himeno. She's the main character.
Her voice, I can already tell you right now that her voice actress hasn't really done a lot. The only other notable roles I could find on her Anime News Network page was that she was Rubet in Gokudo, she was Myope in the Kikaider vs. Inazuman OVA from 2003, and she was Ayu Wakabayashi in Class Reunion, which is porn. But yeah, I think like she's an idol singer by trade rather than a voice actor. One of those people who is better known for live action or other projects than just a full-time voice actor or actress. Kind of like the people who Yoshiyuki Tomino would recruit to be in a show.
I think she does a pretty good job as Himeno. But I primarily listen to this in English, and then I would like spot check the Japanese. Like as Himeno, Himeno is a clumsy, loud, obnoxious character who also has a strong sense of justice. So like all of that was very clear coming through in the Japanese dub. I have no real like extra notes as far as her performance. So I don't have anything else to compare against from her catalog. So of course, English dub, AD Vision. The DVD started to come out in November of 2003. So the ADR director and producer on Prétear, the English dub, is of course David Williams. He's on also for the Dirty Pair OVAs, the Clanad movie, plus the TV show and After Story, All-Purpose Catgirl Nuku Nuku, the Ushio and Tora OVA, including a few others. Thomas Martin Gonzalez on ADR script. So he also was on Catgirl Nuku Nuku, Kaleido Star, Najika Blitz Tactics, and Slayer's Great and Excellent. He was also the ADR script for Gantz.
And in the lead as Himeno is one of my absolute favorite voice actresses, Lucy Christian. She has amazing range.
Because, of course, I'm listening to her performance here, and I've heard her across a bunch of things. Clanad is a series that's very near and dear to my heart. It was one of my third series that I ever watched. So, obviously, Nagisa Furukawa. But this is the same voice that I also hear with Rock as a Lady's Modesty when she's just saying like absolutely horrible things behind the mic and just screaming her brains out. As Lily says, Suzunomiya.
So since we're alternating between the Japanese and English side, the voice for Hayate, who, little funny side, the credits on my ADV DVDs occasionally misspell his name as being Hayata, making me think that he's going to transform into Ultraman.
Yeah.
Kosuke Toriumi is the voice of Hayate on the Japanese side. Video game fans will know him best as being Kiyotaka from Danganronpa, Yuri from Tales of Vesperia, and Junpei in Persona 3. His best known roles for anime would be being Zael in Bleach, Kiba in Naruto, and Hajime Saito in the Hakuoki series. On the English side, he's voiced by Ilich Gardolia, and you can talk about his well-known roles.
Yep, his roles include Saki Vashtal from Area 88, all iterations of that. A series that I would like to rewatch at some point, Durand from Le Chevalier d'Eon, Shinjiro Hayashida is one of the major side characters of Cromartie High School, Crad from Dian Angel, Masaru Kato, another side character from Gantz, and then Masaru Kaibara from Ghost Hound, and of course Reiichiro Miyanoshita from Ghost Stories, and then Kotaro Katsura from Gintama the movie. Oh, Yuri Killian from Kaleido Star.
Oh yes, the bad guy for the first half. Sasame on the Japanese side is voiced by the Crown Prince of Infidelity, Takahiro Sakurai. He is most famous nowadays for being the voice of Gyu in Demon Slayer, Reigen in Mob Psycho 100, Suzaku in Code Geass. One of my favorite villains in all of anime. He is Shogo Makishima in Psycho Pass, and he's also the voice of the medicine seller in Mononoke. Although I believe he has had a couple of his roles stripped from him ever since his cheating scandal came out.
I don't think he's the medicine seller in the new movies.
He's not the medicine seller in the new movies. On the English dub side, he is voiced by another English voice actor whose roles are near and dear to me, Chris Patton. I know him best as the voice of Sosuke in Fullmetal Panic, where he managed to outperform Tomokazu Seki when it came to the dub.
My first experience with him was actually as Greed from Full Metal Alchemist. That was my first anime. So that's
the original. The original, not Brotherhood.
Yes, I did not include Brotherhood in that title. But I should say specifically 2003 when I started anime, Brotherhood didn't exist yet. Obviously, from Princess Tutu, he was Fakir. Ayata Kamina from Razafon. Like, he's got a list a mile long.
We're not going to go through all the voice actors here, but a few names that jump off the page at me. The best character in the show, in my humble opinion, Himeno's evil stepsister, Mayune, is voiced by Yukino Satsuki, who, we talked Fullmetal Panic, she was the Japanese voice of Kaname in Fullmetal Panic, and the voice of a character in another show that is near and dear to me. She's Kagome from Inuyasha and Millie in Trigun.
She is just absolutely milks every scene that she's in.
Oh yeah, especially when she gets to do the Ojo laugh.
Oh my gosh, she just absolutely kills it. Shelley Colleen Black also does a really good job, but just no English person is really like replicated the Ojo Sama laugh. It's just one of those, like, you got to really just stick to in my opinion, you got to stick to the Japanese dub to really get it.
The dub is really good though. I watched the entire thing dubbed and I think they did a great job. Speaking of on the Japanese side, Himeno's father, Kaoru, is voiced by Yuji Ueda, who I just saw as being Hajime in Hellgirl, a character whom I found to be completely pointless. But what's notable to me about him is that he's Mr. Pokemon.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's the Japanese voice of Brock, and you can also hear him in the Japanese side of Pokemon as Infernape, Greninja, Mr. Mime, Skeptile, and Wah! But of course, most importantly to me is that he is the Japanese voice of Johannes Krauser II in Detroit Metal City.
Oh yeah, baby.
On the subject of the Aoyuki family, Himeno's mother, Natsue Aoyuki, is voiced by Kikuko Inoue. Because of course she is. Kikuko Inoue is everyone's mom in anime. Yeah, she's best known to the world over as the voice of Belle Dandy in Oh My Goddess. Also, one last seiyuu I want to shout out on the Japanese side. Himeno's nerdy classmate Yayoi is voiced by Yukari Tamura, who 3 years later would find herself in the leading role of another magical girl anime that would end up changing the genre and turning it on its head. She would be the title character in Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha. And also that same year she was in another Magical Girl anime, and to me she played the second best character in the series. She was Midori in My Hime. I sum up Midori as being a girl failure masquerading as a girl boss.
There's also, like, from the Aoyuki family, or like attached to it, they have the driver.
Yes.
Who's also one of my favorite characters, like side characters, because every single thing he does is just, he is comedy incarnate.
Oh, I love Tanaka. Also, he's played by Takahito Koyasu in a role where he is playing against type, because at this point, Takahito Koyasu was pretty much Mr. Bishonen. Like, he was the most in-demand seiyuu in the 90s and the 2000s. He was always playing the pretty boy. The likes of being Hotohori in Fushigi Yugi, Toga in Revolutionary Girl Utena. He was the genius behind Vice Christ, a show that has a fandom for whatever reason. He was Ryosuke Takahashi in Initial D, Zex in Gundam Wing, Mula Flaga in Gundam Seed, and nowadays, like, he's known for being, like, the super macho guy. Like, he's Dio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
And a really good one, too.
Toji in Jujutsu Kaisen. And, yes, I'm admitting to playing this, he is the best character in Nikkei Mustang. Now that's entertainment.
A little bit more on the English side, we got the usual ADV suspect, Greg Ayers, Hilary Haig, Jason Douglas. You got Monica Rials in this. Also, who does a really fun job. Like, Himeno's got a nerdy classmate who is obsessed with romance novels. So her name's Yayoi. Love Yayoi in both of these dubs. She just appears, again, characters just sometimes teleport in this show. And Yayoi is like the teleportation superpower. She just appears and is always misunderstanding. Anytime Himeno is trying to explain like something's going on or anything emotional, Yayoi just instantly spins it off into a tragic romance, which is funny because it seems like she invents this entire story also about like Tanaka, the driver's backstory of secretly being in love with Natsue Awayuki, but can't muster up the courage to say it. So he just is the driver. That's his way of supporting. And usually she's completely off the mark, but in this one, the man is like in tears because she's just nailing it, which is, I love, that's one of those like jokes I just love in the show. Like she's just getting it 100% and everyone thinks like, oh, it's completely overblown. And Tanaka's like, I'm feeling seen right now.
Anyway, do we want to get into like the Prime discussion or are we done here?
I think I'm good to move into main discussion now. So we're going to start getting into serious time here. Before we jump into big spoilery territory, some last couple of credits here. So talking a little bit about the character designs. The character designer and the animation director is Akemi Kobayashi. She's got a lot of credits, of course. Urusei Yatsura, the TV series, Magical Princess Miki Momo, Magical Angel Creamy Mami, also Super Dimension Fortress Macross, Project Echo, the second movie, Candy Candy. An interesting one for me, Super Mario Brothers, The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach, the Mario anime movie from 1986, which is there's an old Treehouse Anime Club episode on that, one of my favorites to research. Just before Prétear, she was the chief animation director on Strange Dawn, so again, directed by Junichi Sato in 2000. That one was actually licensed by Urban Vision in 2002 and hasn't been picked back up. I think that one just fell in the Urban Vision black hole.
Was Urban Vision like Madhouse's label?
Yes, Urban Vision was, they did a lot of work with Madhouse stuff. So including other series like Gogol 13, The Professional. Also, they did Vampire with Madhouse, like Ninja Scroll, Vampire Hunter D, and Bloodlust, Wicked City, a couple other things. I believe Goku Midnight Eye is Madhouse, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
It's a Kawajiri joint, and I love it.
Yeah, I felt it was, but I was making sure. Other ones, Space Adventure Cobra, Tekkaman Blade, Hurricane Polymer, also Ninja Scroll the series, Pet Shop of Horrors. So yeah, the 1994 is Gatchaman. So yeah, Urban Vision had a couple of these. So a couple of them have been picked up by like Sentai Filmworks or Discotech, but no, Strange Dawn has not been picked up yet. But her other animation director credits also include episodes of Princess Tutu and Kaleido Star, as you would expect. Some other character designer credits include Air, the motion picture, so that's the 2005 Toei animation version, and then a much later series, or more recent to this episode, 2022's Love After World Domination.
I heard that one's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. It's that one and another one called Miss Koritsu's Monster Development Department, I think, which also like plays on evil organizations. It's like it makes a lot of jabs at like corporate culture, which
I see. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting series. But also speaking of creature designs, speaking of monsters, a lot of the creatures, like not just the demon larva, of course, but all the fantasy creatures of the Leafey Kingdom that we see. Creature designs by Koichi Usami. A good bulk of his early stuff is like Nippon Sunrise and then also Toei series. So he worked on Aura Battler Dunbine as an in-betweener key animator. He worked on Heavy Metal El Gaim, Odin, Photon Space Sailor Starlight.
Oh God, Odin. Oh God, Odin.
He also was an animator on Double Zeta Gundam and Char's Counterattack. Some key animation credits also around the 90s. Sailor Moon S, the movie, Hearts and Ice, the Green Legend ran OVAs, episode 3. He was also mechanical animation director on Tokyo Babylon, X, the movie, and Trigun. He's also the character designer of Great Teacher Onizuka, including the baseball anime series Major, although just the 2005 and 2007 seasons. And he's still working, so you can see him as a key animator, Persona 4, the animation, the Persona 3 movies, Spy Family, Vivi Fluorite Eyes Song. He worked on Attack on Titan, both Wits Studio and the final season specials with Mappa in 2023. He was attached to Sanda, and he's also attached to Love Through a Prism. So, I mean, like, he's still working today.
I keep meaning to finish Prism Rondo and its English dub that was done in the UK, of all places.
Also, you had series composition. That's Kenichi Kanemaki. And mentioned him briefly at the beginning of the episode. So he's done episodes of Record of Lodoss War, episodes 4 and 5. Magical Todoroto-kun, so that's from Toei Animation. Well, I put that there because, of course, our last episode was just Tatsuya Egawa's Golden Boy. So Magical Angel Todoroto-kun was Tatsuya Egawa's manga in Weekly Shonen Jump. It's also screenplay credits on Irresponsible Captain Tyler, Saber Marionette J, Agent Aika, and Galaxy Angel, which after Prétear, he did a lot more with, he continued with Galaxy Angel and the Aika series as a writer. But some series composition, he's attached to Ai Yori Aroishi, Negima, Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, and Natsume's Book of Friends, but only the 2009 season, and of course, Hell Girl. All seasons as the series composition. Actually, before we jump too much in, before we do the spoiler section, do you want to talk a little bit about the music? Because I got like the music credits here for some folks.
The only real music credit I want to talk about is Yoko Ishida. I bring her up because she is a very famous anisong singer. She sang the music to a lot of noteworthy anime, including for the likes of Strike Witches, Sailor Moon R and Sailor Moon S, Petite Princess UC, Gun Parade March, Fairy Tail for all you fans out there. She sang the final outro to Kashan, the 1990s OVA, which I reviewed with Mercury Falcon. She sang on the aforementioned Ayori Aoshi, and she sang my favorite anime opening of the 2000s, Open Your Mind, from the Oh My Goddess TV series.
She does the opening credits for Shirobako, so that's the singer on Colorful Box.
Since I talked about Yoko Ishida, White Destiny, by the way, is a great opening. I rarely, if ever, skipped it. You can talk about the composer for the time being.
Sure, yeah. The composer is Toshiyuki Omori. So he worked on Urusei Yatsura, the 5th movie, Devil Hunter Yoko, and Gestalt. All this is before Prétear. Also, the composer for Shaman King, the 2001 series, Tsukihime Lunar Legend, the School Rumble series, Amagami SS and SS Plus, which is the last of his soundtrack composer credits as far as 2012. His individual song credits extend a little further beyond, but of course it includes, now he's not the composer, but he is the arranger for A Cruel Angel's Thesis. The composer on that is Hidetoshi Sato, but he also has music arrangement credits for all versions of Fly Me to the Moon. Some other Annie songs that he's composed and arranged for, include The World God Only Knows, Sailor Moon Crystal, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the 2012 series, plus Stardust Crusaders, and Golden Wind, which is around where his credits end in 2018, because the guy's been around for a good while. So around 2018 is when he's hitting about the retirement age. But funny enough, his final listed credit, as far as composition or arrangement, is for a kids mecha show based on the Takara Tomy toy line of trains and plastic rail models. It was called like Play Rail. And this is Shinkansen Henkei Robo Shinkalion, the animation.
Yeah.
And it's for A Cruel Angel's Thesis being used as an insert song. So I was like, so his credits technically extend to 2021, but it's actually, I'm calling it at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, because everything after that is like 3 extra credits, all of it for Shinkalion. He also composed and arranged White Destiny, the opening credits that are sung by Yoko Ishida. And of course, the ending credits theme, for what it's worth, Sayuri Yoshida, the voice actress for Himeno, is singing Lucky Stars. It's a nice little melodic bop for an ending credits theme song. But the Prétear soundtrack of itself, like there is a incredible variety to listen back to. You've got all of primarily like it's for like the battle scenes that are there, really some excellent symphonic rock with these like light synth effects. When this show when he wants to get your blood pumping with a soundtrack, he's very effective with it. But then a lot of the show is, of course, bouncy comedy tracks. But Tanaka's theme is also just really funny and weird. Also, just a lot of good mood pieces, some really soft piano, some really good woodwinds, just a really cool variety of tracks in Prétear. I think it's a really good soundtrack, not just in the moment, but it's one that I was started to listen back through YouTube. I was like, wow, I need to add these to my playlist.
I can happily say that White Destiny is on my favorite anime openings playlist, which, as of this recording, is over 450 songs long.
As it should be.
I think we're ready to start talking about the show itself properly. And I think what makes Prétear so watchable is that it's, for the first half, a rather lighthearted and fun show. Like, Prétear is magical girl goodness at its best. One of the great things about Himeno is that she is given so much development over the series.
And she's really asked to do a lot all at once. I will say like that the first episode is just, this poor girl is bombarded with so much responsibility. So it really speaks to a lot about her character, like early on, that she is established, like this is a lot. I don't really know what's going on, but I know that people need my help. But she really does have a never give up, never say never attitude that is immediately endearing from the first couple of seconds that you meet her.
Not to mention also that she has to deal with a lot very early on. Her regular mother died. Her father, who was a famous novelist, stopped writing after the death of his wife. She's forced to live with 2 foster sisters whom, again, it's established that she doesn't really fit in with. You can clearly tell that the death of her mother is weighing a lot on her.
Yeah, and they don't play it up as like this over the top thing. It's surprisingly subtle at times, but you can really see it in the quieter moments, and especially as like her main memento of her mother is a pot of flowers. Her mother loved growing a garden, so Himeno is very much attached to watering and nurturing, and also because again she's gone from extreme poverty to extreme wealth practically overnight. It's not just her that's lost a parent. Her stepsisters have lost their fathers. So you have like Mawata, especially, who is dealing with her, or in another way, like negatively dealing with the loss of her father. And now you have Kaoru, who honestly, her dad is just, speaking of failed bosses, her dad is just, is a disaster. This guy...
I am honestly amazed that his wife in this series puts up with him.
Props to her, because I will have to say,
because
he is. Whew,
he's kind of a deadbeat.
He is completely a deadbeat, and I kept waiting for, because again, this is Legend of Snow White. That's ostensibly the central conceit of the show. So as this is like a magical girl series, and they're calling these Snow White things, there's 7 nights and other stuff. I'm looking for other things of like, okay, who's going to be like, say, the evil queen? Is it going to be, obviously suspect number 1 is the stepmother. And especially with her dad, with Himeno's dad being such a deadbeat, I just kept waiting for, like, in my head, I'm going, is the shoe going to drop? Is she just going to get like exasperated with this guy? But I will give her props. Like, Natsue is obviously, Himeno is a very frustrating child for her. She doesn't know how to approach her, but Natsue like never gives up on her. She's very much not the evil stepmother.
It's a great subversion of that character type because, this is a fairy tale and the evil stepmom thing. It's not that...
It's an inversion that I'm happy to see as well, because another like central theme of this show is family, and it's not just, the family that you're the family that you're born with, it's the family that you choose. And this is very much a story about the chosen family, about found family, both with Himeno and her direct and step siblings, and of course Himeno and her knights is kind of the focus. But it is a nice setup. So I am glad that it did not play into, oh, maybe the stepmother is gonna turn evil or something. She has the patience of a saint.
She's very benevolent, she's caring, but it's clear that she just doesn't really have time for her daughters with all of her business dealings. She leaves the mansion via helicopter.
Oh yeah, just a daily occurrence, as you would, being the CEO of, I don't know, an entire town. Well, and as such, there's not exactly like a huntsman-like figure. Himeno is not like ousted from her home or hunted away or disowned or anything like that. Nothing of the sort happens. But then I was reading through like some interviews and things, and like, okay, well, Snow White, obviously the poisoned apple or the apple, and in this case, Leafey life force in itself is basically being used as a very overarching, just it's the MacGuffin. The Leafey is essentially, the life force is the MacGuffin. It's the apple. You give it to someone, it nurtures, makes life grow. You take it away, the land withers, people fall asleep, or they are drained of their energy.
While Natsue may be a nice subversion of the evil stepmother, we gotta talk a lot about the actual evil stepsister Mayune, because my god, does she steal the show.
And as we said, very, very much the Wile E. Coyote of this show. And she keeps one-upping herself through the series as well, which I like, but it's always like in a different, unexpected way. She is a train wreck, and I love her. I can fix her.
Well, she's not like fixing her in an emotionally damaged way. No, that's Moana.
That's Moana.
Yeah, she's just more emotionally obsessed at trying to pick on her sister, yet she keeps failing in increasingly hilarious fashions. And also, I love the little thing she's got going on with the Leafey Knights, like basically holding them captive against their wishes.
There is no two-faced nature to this character. She is very, very honest. And I love the gag of, so like basically she'll run into one of the older Leafey Knights, and it'll always be like a happenstance. I believe like the first time she also runs into Hayate is the first one that she runs into, and like literally drags him by the hair back to her house. And her idea of flirting is to drag him to the house and have them attend her while she takes a shower. Because usually when she runs into somebody, she also ends up being like covered in like some kind of filth, either like running into the dirt. One time she's trying to set up a trap and is running around with a giant, like an industrial tub of mayonnaise for some reason.
Why would you need a giant bottle of mayo for?
I'm just impressed. And I'm not talking about like, folks might be thinking of like a Sam's Club size man. No. This is a person-sized tub of mayonnaise that she is hauling over her shoulders. So like, girl is strong.
I also love, like, at the very end when they are looking for Himeno, because she does disappear for a spell, her idea of trying to find her is using, like, roach hotels that are, like, the size of a ping pong table.
Yeah, and her idea is, I need to build she just decides to booby trap the entire mansion in case Himeno starts slinking away or.
She overcompensates for everything, and it's glorious.
Yeah, Mayuta is just a delightful vehicle for most of the comedy in this series. Usually assisting her is, of course, Tanaka, who's not only like the driver, but he's sometimes. One of my favorite episodes, honestly, was episode 4 when it's time for Himeno and the three lads, and they are like they've been told that there's a demon larva somewhere on the estate, and all of a sudden it turns into what I thought was gonna be like a Welcome to Jurassic Park. Like they go through like a whole log ride sequence.
I don't get the names that he gives to his animals, though. I mean, I get that one of them is called Marilyn, and I get that one, but like, are they supposed to be named after certain celebrities or something? I don't know.
I don't know. Either way, it's like, you give a giant, silverback gorilla a cute name. It's like, oh yeah, we have an entire spot of this estate where it's just all of a sudden we're in a safari. And so he spends the entire episode basically getting whisked away by the various animals, which these are things like there's a boa constrictor eating his face. He's like, oh, it's fine. This is how it says hello. And it's just slowly dragging him away into the brush. He emerges minutes later, totally fine, only to get whisked away again by a giant hawk or like a giant eagle. And he's like, oh, okay, we're going this way now. There's a completely wild, just non sequitur part of the episode. And then it's never brought up again. And there's just an entire zoo on the estate.
It's a fun little bit of world building.
Yeah, how stupid rich is this family? Let me count the ways.
So the first couple of episodes of Prétear are fairly standard magical girl fare. Himeno and the various Leafey Knights fight off whatever demon larva has spawned that week. But in episode 5, we get introduced to the series' main villain, the Princess of Disaster. And the Princess of Disaster has said that she is presented as being like a figure from the past of the Leafey Knights, but we don't know what their true identity is. And the best part about it is that they do a fantastic job of hiding who the Princess of Disaster really is. Because whenever you have this masked villain or villain who is a figure from the past or maybe related to our heroes, there's always clues as to who they could really be. And you would think that it would be Himeno's stepmother, because of course, this is a fairy tale themed magical girl show, and that's the obvious choice. But I am very happy to say that Prétear does a phenomenal job of keeping the viewer guessing as to who the Princess of Disaster really is.
And it's a really neat payoff as well. But again, folks, if you're still listening to this and have not seen Prétear, this is one of the final warnings. So if you don't mind being spoiled as to the central antagonist of the series, feel free to keep listening. Otherwise, pause and come back. We'll be here. So we're really about to get into the meats and potatoes of this thing. All right, for those of you who are still here, let's talk about why it's always the butler. Why it's always the maid.
So, eventually, it is revealed that several years ago, Sasame was in love with a girl by the name of Takako. And they were an item together, but eventually they broke up in very dramatic fashion. And Takako was at the wedding of Himeno's stepmother and her father when her father remarried. That woman, Takako, is their housemaid, Mikage. And this reveal is brilliant, because the show gives you no clues as to who it could really be, outside of one small thing. But when you finally realize it, you're like, damn it was under my nose this entire time!
As part of these early episodes, Himeno is, of course, very much out of her depth. And Mikage is basically the personal attendant to all of the... She's like the main housemaid for the three sisters. And so Mikage is very much like an early emotional support for Himeno and helping her, navigate this new lifestyle. Here's where you go, here's what to do. And is just a big emotional support, giving her actual advice on, maybe you should try talking to Mawata this way, like actually good advice. And so to have her be the main villain is a huge shock.
It's a wonderful subversion when the mentor figure or the person that our character goes to for advice ends up being the biggest backstabber of them all. I had my mind blown the first time, and when I went back to rewatch it, knowing what it was, when I saw the lead up to it, I'm like, Junichi Sato, you are absolutely brilliant with what you've done.
Masterclass in building up a character like this, because you really do get attached to her. And then it's not even that, she's purely evil for the sake of being evil. You build in the tragedy of this is essentially a jilted lover. She and Sasame were an item, but it's said that she was in love with Hayate, and Hayate, turned her down, and all of the, the severe heartbreak warped her into what she is today. So it's a thing of like, now you're kind of looking at Hayate and Sasame, and really like the four older knights who have known who it is the entire time, but have been keeping it from Himeno, and even the younger three. The younger three only know that there was a battle 16 years ago, but they don't know any of the personal connections. And even when it's revealed who Takako is, it still takes a little while for Himeno to even get it out of these other guys. Like, there seems to be so much, a bit more to it. It's interesting to see that also the knights aren't entirely blameless in all of this.
It's always good to see when we have somebody in our main cast that isn't the most innocent, that is somewhat responsible for the rise of our villain. Even if Prétear is a traditional magical girl show, it's very much a things aren't always black and white type of deal, which makes something that Sasame does later on all the more shocking.
It really is, and it's something that I knew, again, with the background of Princess Tutu and knowing about some of the things that were in Sailor Moon, I was expecting a kind of twist, like things aren't as always as they seem. So even then, like I obviously did not know who the princess was, or sometimes they call her like Princess Fenrir, or in the English dub is like Princess Fenril. They changed it up just slightly, but that's just...
Can I just say this?
Sure.
I like the dub of Prétear, but the localization of Fenrir as Fenril is just, nobody cares. Like, sometimes you just name things after Norse mythology because it sounds cool.
Like it's not like it's a copyright thing, or maybe maybe there was some weird Fenrir thing. Ronin Warriors was not named Samurai Troopers because somebody, I believe it was a samurai baseball gear or something like that. They would have had to pay for, the copyright. Samurai was a trademarked word in the United States. So instead of calling the show Samurai Troopers, they said, fine, Ronin Warriors. That's the only thing I can think of why they wouldn't have called it Fenrir. That's neither here nor there. It's just a weird localization thing. It's a great reveal. It's a really cool twist villain. Like we said, Sasame has a thing for Takako, and he always did. So I really liked it that... I think the implementation, me personally, I think it was a little clunky because it was essentially Sasame suddenly does a heel turn and pledges himself to Takako, and he does this big lore dump of why. Maybe it's something that I will notice more on the rewatch, but I didn't really see anything of Sasame showing like hesitation or other things of like, or anything like particular tells when Takako's name came up or the princess came up. To me, this first watch, it was like she appears, and then shortly after, he just turns on the group and then says his justification, which it still works, but it was it felt more like, oh no, sudden shoujo tragedy.
And also this sort of brings us to the subplot involving Mawata and her relationship with Mikage. If Mikage is giving good advice to Himeno and, how to deal with her life with her adopted family, then Mikage is giving bad advice and openly manipulating Mawata.
Because it was always there, but it's something that I only really keyed into obviously after the reveal, because now it's obvious that Mikage is the villain. So now every time that she's in the room alone with Mawata, it's like, oh no, what is she going to make this girl do next? And Mawata's dependency has always been on Sasame, who runs a radio show, being the Knight of Sound. He's also a radio personality. And his whole thing is giving life advice or giving comforting messages and things. So Mawata's been writing into his radio show for a long time. And essentially he's a personality that for her has helped her process or try to process the grieving of her father, but because she hasn't taken that next step, and also with Mikage's manipulation, this has turned into, instead of processing her grief, she is like wallowing in it, and is also keeping all of that negative emotion bottled up, which is exactly what Mikage, as the Princess of Darkness, wants, because she feeds on negative emotions. So Mawata is a couple of things, but is almost like a food source for Mikage.
And also, one thing that I love about the back half and what makes it so great is that when the princess finally unleashes her full power, she defeats the Leaf Knights.
It is devastating. It is very clear where the power scale lies.
I love it when we have a moment where our characters just straight up lose. And I don't mean like, oh, well, they lose this battle, but we'll get them next time. No, I mean like, they get thoroughly defeated and and you are left asking, how are they gonna come back from this one?
Here is your evil queen.
Oh, she is evil with what she does in this one.
And again, she's also backed up by Sasame, who gets a really sick, nasty Raven outfit. What you did was bad, but I mean, I respect you nonetheless. You went for love, which again, that's another thing why the betrayal like hurts so much with him. Whenever I think of like classic shoujo twists, or like whenever someone does like a heel turn, I am thinking of, the guy falls for the villain because he's harbored secret feelings this entire time, and he can't take it anymore. So he jumps over to the dark side because that's where his heart's desire lies. And yeah, it feels like just so unbelievably tragic. That is something that I imagine the intended audience for this show. I imagine like a teenage girl just lapping this thing up. Again, plus his really cool Raven outfit. I cannot get over how cool his Raven outfit is. Trades in white for black.
Oh yeah, and the final fight is very emotional and full of tension, and it's also where Prétear's central theme of family really comes into play.
Yeah, it really is, because you start thinking like, how in the world are they going to stop any of this? But you did have a little thing of like, of course, it is a Junichi Sato written thing. So of course we have to have the evil tree that's gonna suck up all the life in the world, and so we have to have the great final battle be on the evil Nausicaa tree.
I think this is the third Junichi Sato work I have seen that features a giant tree in some capacity. It was in the Doom Tree arc of Sailor Moon R, which I know is a filler arc, but still. And then it was in the finale of the Magic Users Club OVAs in the first part of the TV series. What is it with Junichi Sato and his love of giant trees?
I don't know, but this one certainly takes the cake. Is the whole idea is this is going to be the big fortress of darkness that is going to suck away all the life, and Muwata is the battery for this thing.
It feeds off of her negative emotions.
Because again, the whole conceit with Muwata's deal is she's in love with Sasame. Sasame is in love with the princess. And of course, the princess plays this perfectly. She reveals at the exact moment, she puts Muwata right in front of him and gives Sasame a big old wet kiss right in front of Muwata. Just breaks this poor girl into pieces. And it is just unbelievably tragic the entire time. Like, my heart was really breaking for this poor girl. She honestly goes through the ringer in this show. Like, props to Muwata for honestly surviving this series.
Good directors and writers really know how to plunge the dagger in when it comes to creating tragedy in a series.
But like you said, this is where the whole idea of family really comes together, because now is the moment. This is the ultimate moment where, it's the end of the world, and what can normal people do against a giant evil tree that is, taking over the world and is closing away their daughters. I really love that in this moment, the Himeno's father, Kaoru, Natsue, and Mayuta, they put away all differences.
But it is in this moment when they realize just how important each member of the family is to each other.
It's a true all hope is lost scenario, and it's everything that Himeno can do just to stay alive in this fight. It's not even like there's a great big, repeated clash against her and the Princess of Darkness. Like, this is really a thing of like, this lady won. I don't see any other way that any of these folks are ever surviving. Like, it's just complete hopeless scenario. And I really like how, well, again, the final battle, I really like how everybody rallies together. It basically unites their spirit. And even with Sasame finally coming to his senses, in the 11th hour, he still, even in that moment, he doesn't betray Takako, even when
The villain does get redeemed, but it feels like it's an earned redemption.
It does, yeah. I was trying to get the best way to say that. Yeah, Takako is an interesting villainess, because as the princess, she has this goal to, again, destroy all life and to take it into herself and convert it into this tree. But as the fight drags on, this is a kind of show where, again, this is not a show all about these elaborate fights. So through the fight, even as Himeno and Hayate are just getting the absolute crap beaten out of them, she's not really trying to, well, she's trying to defeat her, but she's trying to reach Takako inside the princess, trying to appeal to her humanity. And that's why I think like this is a really great final battle, because it's not about who has the bigger attack or the stronger, the bigger powers. It's who's got the more resolve and who's able to pierce through to the heart of the matter.
And also, I would like to say this as a Symphogear fan, Hibiki Tachibana would approve of this, because she understands that it's not about being stronger than your opponent. The best way to defeat your enemy is to understand them.
And that's where I think Prétear really goes from like a really good series to, I think it really elevates it to greatness for me. And I really do think that this is really what the whole show is about. It's understanding, it's coming together, it's empathy.
And I think that's also a core of what makes a lot of Magical Girls so great, because sometimes it's not always just, let's defeat the villain and give them their what's for. Other times in Magical Girl series, it's just as important to understand your enemy as it is to defeat them. It's more than just defeating the monster of the week sometimes. Sometimes the villain is evil for a reason, and you need to know why.
Takako's journey is indeed a tragic one, and there were a lot of mistakes made along the way, but that doesn't mean that that's the end of her journey per se. That doesn't have to be the ending to her story. And so I'm glad that we have a series like this that offers her that redemption and that it's taken. So in that way, all the things that have been built up, it really does feel earned. And that's what I think at the end I really do appreciate about Prétear. It's something that when I go back and rewatch the show, I'm going to enjoy seeing how all of these pieces were laid up in advance.
Indeed, and I can happily say that it does hold up to rewatch. I didn't cry at this one as much as I did the first time, probably just because I went in totally blind, not knowing anything, but it definitely does have that emotional punch in its finale. This does, however, bring up something that I would like to rant about if I am allowed time for this.
Sure, yeah, we're gonna start wrapping it up here in a little bit, but yeah, what would you like to talk about?
I had a rant about a series that a lot of people that has sort of colored a lot of people's impressions of magical girl shows in a negative light. We did mention it earlier, but I think that a lot of people's perceptions of what magical girls are has been, for lack of a better word, painted by Madoka Magica. And I'm going to say this. I like Madoka Magica just fine. I think it is a great series that is worthy of all of the praise that it gets, but I think a lot of the rhetoric surrounding it being a, quote, deconstruction of magical girls is colored by people who have never watched any magical girl shows outside of Sailor Moon. And I think that because people only know magical girls just from watching clips, they think that all magical girls were happy and fun and silly before Madoka came along and made magical girls dark and all that. Let me tell you a little something. Before I discovered Madoka Magica, I watched a little show in 2007 called My Hime. My Hime was a part of a trinity of magical girl shows that came out in 2004 that kind of helped push the genre forward. There was My Hime, but also earlier that year you had the inaugural Prétear series, and also, right after My Hime started airing, you had Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha. Prétear sort of took magical girl shows into a more action-oriented style of fighting where it wasn't just them casting spells and launching attacks. No, the girls in Prétear throw hands. But with both My Hime and Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha, they're both cut from the same cloth as being magical girl shows that are aimed at an older male audience. people who grew up watching anime like Cutie Honey, like Sailor Moon, like Cardcaptor Sakura, but want something that's a little more dark and, to use a word that my friend Race likes to use, a defamiliarization of magical girl shows. And people who think that Madoka is a deconstruction of magical girl shows because it's dark and it shows that being a magical girl can be tragic and all that, if you actually go and watch magical girl anime, you'll find out that tragedy, darkness, and emotional pain are baked into the fabric of magical girls. It's just that Madoka was the first to kind of embrace being dark full-time. And also, I wouldn't call it a deconstruction as more of it is a dark subversion of magical girls. Because while Madoka Magica does subvert some of your typical tropes of magical girls, it never forgets at the very end that magical girls are supposed to be a symbol of hope.
There it is.
Which is personified by the very ending of Madoka Magica, which is why I don't call Madoka Magica a deconstruction. And if you watch shows like Prétear, like Princess Tutu, like the Pretear series, like My Hime and My Otome, like Nanoha, and like Symphogear, you start beginning to understand, oh hey, magical girl shows are always like this. They can be dark, they can be tragic, but they never forget that magical girls, at the end of the day, are heroes. And they are forces that fight against the forces of darkness, of loneliness, of cynicism, of nihilism, and isolation. They are supposed to bring people together. And that is ultimately the message of Prétear. You are not alone. There is a place in the world for you. People will love you regardless. You just have to get out there and you have to have hope.
You matter in this world, and other people should matter to you as well.
And that's ultimately what Prétear is all about and why we love it.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And before we sign off, would you let the folks know where they can find you on the internet?
You can follow the Otaku Nate Show on Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, any place you get your podcasts from. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Otaku Nate Show. You can follow me on Instagram and Threads at NateTendoWii, that is NateNtendowii, where I am constantly posting photos of myself at sporting events and cosplays from the various conventions that I attend. I am set to attend Otakon in a few weeks, and I'm gonna be posting a lot of the costumes from that conventions that I find noteworthy or fun or interesting or creative. Because to me, it's not necessarily how expensive or how ornate your costume is. What matters to me when it comes to cosplay is creativity, uniqueness, or the passion behind it.
Thank you again for sharing this magical series with me. Until next time, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Nate, for jumping in with me. And stay safe and watch more cartoons.
And with that, we will sign off and say, I'll win in the next episode too!